situations in our lives that can trigger an anger response in us. And while not all anger is bad, too much of it carried around chronically with us can deeply impact the amount of joy we're experiencing in our lives. Welcome to the Joyfulicity podcast. I'm your host, Laura Wakefield. Sometimes people really make you mad. Your boss doesn't give you the promotion you had been promised. Your spouse isn't helping out around the house and doesn't appreciate all you do. Your kids are breaking the rules or arguing a lot. Your mom forgets your birthday. Your best friend stole your boyfriend. A stranger cuts you off in traffic. Irritation comes fast and fierce, and quite often for good reason. I mean, you've been wronged, right? And you're justifiably upset about it. Now, let's be honest. Ranting and raving can provide a little bit of a measure of satisfaction. A good vent now and then relieves tension and can get it out of our systems. Sometimes it gives us a chance to talk things through out loud, and when we hear the story out loud, we realize that we're overreacting. Or we come up with a solution. Sometimes a little anger can actually be motivational in helping us to make changes in our lives that really need to be made. It's normal to react when others take advantage of us or treat us poorly. And it's not always entirely a bad thing to get a little mad about it, temporarily, or when anger is channeled and used toward a positive outcome. Most of the strides that we've made in society today toward equality and protection of the innocent came about because someone first got angry, and that fueled their charge. However, chronic anger is not healthy. It takes a toll on our relationships, our productivity, even on our mental and physical well-being. It stands in the way of our peace and our joy, and interferes with our ability to love and forgive. Anger is a heavy weight to carry around that impacts ourselves negatively as much or more as it hurts those that we feel are to blame for it. For our own good, in the vast majority of cases, we simply need to let it go as quickly and fully as possible. Why? Because we will be happier, plain and simple. But what about when those other people continue to be mean or dishonest or unfair or rude? We can't help but be angry then, right? Well, yes. Yes, we can. And very often we should. Now, I don't mean that we sit and allow others to abuse us or continue to hurt us in serious ways. Of course not. But when we allow anger to consume us, we're doubling the trouble. Because most of the impact of the hostility turns squarely back on us. Oftentimes, the person we're mad at doesn't even know that we're mad, and all of the emotion is simply coming at our expense. It's not doing anything to improve the situation. So what do we do then, though, when someone else's actions or words get to us, and when we feel that internal tension rising? First of all, stop and ask yourself the question, did that person really mean to be upsetting? Could it possibly be a misunderstanding? So often, our anger can be dispelled by realizing nothing harmful was intended. And it's important to note that sometimes you can't tell that when you're in the midst of that anger flash. Sometimes it takes a perspective of time to realize and recognize and see things clearly that they really weren't trying to be mean. And so that's why it's often a great benefit to stop and pause and take at least a breath. Take a few breaths, take a little bit of time to try not to respond too quickly out of anger, because sometimes with time, that anger will dispel a little bit on its own. Secondly, we need to ask ourselves if what just happened, even if it was wrong, does it really matter enough to waste time worrying over it? Because there's tons of minor irritations in our life. And most of them honestly just aren't worth the trouble of dignifying them. Just move on. Yeah, the person was rude. They said something not very nice. But in most cases, it's not somebody you even know. If it's just a stranger in passing, there's just no sense in magnifying what they said or did by carrying anger around for the rest of the day about it. Just don't let it ruin your day. So what, right? I mean, in most cases, obviously there's times that it does matter, but that's the question to ask. Does this instance really matter? And will I even be thinking about this again in a year? And if not, it's probably not worth your anger. Third, ask yourself whether there is anything you can or need to do about it to avoid future issues. So it's not saying that you shouldn't be angry. It's more addressing the underlying cause of the anger and asking yourself, is there an actionable step that I can take to solve this or to make this better? If a particular person, for instance, in your life is a constant source of conflict or pain, perhaps you need to distance yourself from that person, end a relationship, have fewer contacts, find a new job, or whatever. But take a proactive step that gives you a sense of empowerment, because that sense of empowerment will override the anger. And it's a much, much healthier thing to be walking around with for yourself. Fourth, do you need to talk to the person heart to heart? In some cases, it's important to give that other person a chance to explain or apologize. Sometimes we can't just ignore what happened. Sometimes we can't just move on. It's not a stranger. It's a close personal relationship or a serious situation that's causing ongoing pain. So sometimes we actually have to have a tough conversation. Often in times like that, you'll discover that the person didn't even know that what they were doing was bothersome. And they'll try to correct that behavior. Oftentimes not. Oftentimes it will erupt in defensiveness and that sort of thing. And then refer to steps 1 through 3 and go back in order to deal with that, because you can't control how somebody else is reacting. But it's oftentimes good to at least give them the opportunity to talk to you about it before just simply ending the relationship. And then kind of go from there based on what the response is. Fifth, ask yourself, and this is a hard one, is there any possibility that you were in the wrong? Maybe their actions were in response to a real or perceived slight on your part. Taking the time to consider this honestly and openly could possibly save a lot of damaged relationships. Now, one serious caution I have about this is to not fall into victim mentality where you blame yourself for things that were not your fault. So I'm definitely not talking about that. But all of us know that sometimes, even though we're mad at the other person in an argument, we played our part in most cases. And again, I just want to emphasize, I'm not talking about abuse situations or anything like that. I'm just talking about the normal irritations between two people. Usually it goes both ways. And taking the time to kind of see your part in it and maybe even offer an apology for what you did sometimes dispels most, if not all, of the anger that you were feeling toward the other person. Sixth, deflect the emotions. Certain relationships simply are challenging. There will always be people in our family, church, social network, or work life that get on our nerves. There just always will. Truth be told, we probably get on some other people's nerves too. So it's good to remember that sometimes, that we're all just different. And sometimes we're forced into situations where we're roommates or we share an office space or something where we just simply have to get along with this person in spite of how much they anger us or irritate us. We just aren't going to click or get along with everyone. Sometimes we're going to be forced to interact with people anyway, though, in which case a certain amount of patience and acceptance are required. Sure, we can choose to go around ticked off all the time at whatever new thing this person said or did. But what good will that do? It's not going to change the situation. It's not going to change the person, most likely. So I would make an extra effort to try to focus on the good in that person and recall it whenever they're being annoying. Now, that's hard when somebody just really rubs you wrong to find that good, but dig deep and find something about them that you admire or that you like or that you think somebody else might admire or like, even if you can't quite bring yourself to get there. And try to start focusing on that about that person or finding other ways to look at the things that they did. If they're bossy, try to see them as assertive. And again, this isn't about denying our own feelings. I'm not about that at all. This is more about trying to make the situation tolerable for yourself. And the truth is, even those people that we don't care for very much usually have some good qualities. So if we try to focus on those, we'll be happier, they'll be happier. And frankly, we might just see things that we were missing through our anger. But if you honestly, truly cannot think of anything, and you truly cannot avoid this person, then try to prepare yourself in advance to put an emotional shield between you. No matter what they do, just smile and don't let it get under your skin. Don't allow them to have the power to control your emotions. If they are the type that actually enjoys causing friction, your lack of reaction will probably confuse them at first, but they're less likely to keep at it when there's no big response from you. Most importantly, forgive. People act the way they do for a myriad of reasons: their upbringing, mental health issues, past hurts, basic temperaments. It's hard for us to fully know what's going on inside the minds and lives of everyone we come in contact with. Would it make a difference if we knew that the guy that just cut us off on the road was racing to the hospital to see his wife who was just in a car accident? Of course it would. Then we would have compassion. Or would it change our reaction if we knew that the coworker who just spoke so insensitively to us had just found out that they'd been diagnosed with cancer? Of course it would. Our compassion would override our anger. Since usually we aren't privy to all the facts, though, in every interaction, it seems wise whenever possible to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it is true that sometimes they won't deserve it. Sometimes there really was no other reason that justified the way that they behaved. Sometimes they might just truly be mean people, but what does it matter? When we act with kindness and forgive the failings of those around us, we ourselves are more at peace, healthier, and happier. So don't do it for them. Do it for you. And do it for others in the sense that, you can have one negative reaction or interaction with somebody in the morning, but if you're carrying anger through the rest of your day, you're then turning around and affecting the entire room and space around you with all of that. And you need to take responsibility for that. Now, again, if there's a situation where there is serious abuse or ongoing disrespect, things like that, I'm not suggesting that we just look the other way on those things. That's where we have to start taking some actionable steps to solve those things, and maybe even see a therapist to help us unpack why we're even in that situation to start with, so that we don't, get out of it and then walk right into it in another situation in our lives. But most of the irritations that we encounter every day honestly are pretty small, and they feel big in our minds when we allow that anger response to trigger, and when we feed it with all the negativity that we have inside of us, it grows and it grows and it gets bigger and bigger, and it seems more important than it really is, and we give it a whole lot more energy and attention than it really deserves. So most of the time, the healthiest thing is to just realize that it doesn't matter that much, and try to let it go and focus on something positive instead. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on the Joyfulicity podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share, and come follow me on all major social media sites at Joyfulicity or on my website, joyfulicity.com. You can follow the link in the description for this episode to all of the places that we can connect. Have a great day, everybody, and remember, dare to dream, plan to play, live to learn.